What I've observed is Americans have this ingrained mindset that to get to the pros, you have to go to college, unaware of the fact that that is true for American football, basketball, baseball, hockey, but is the furthest thing from the truth when it comes to soccer. If you're waiting for somebody to find your player, you're basically leaving it up to fate and luck. And most likely the odds are against you. I coach soccer youth in my spare time, and even as a FIFA agent, I've seen players just transform themselves in a short amount of time. Every single player is on a different trajectory when it comes to their development. And just because they're not at a certain level at age 13, that they can't be by the time they're 15. Recognizing that, I think, is very important.
Hey guys, welcome to a special edition of the Inside Scoop. My name is Neil Crawford. I'm your host and also the founder of Anytime Soccer Training. This is the second installment of my interview with Mr. Miro Gladovic. God, I hope I got that right.
You got it right. You nailed it, Neil.
So, Miro, for those who did not listen to the initial interview, Miro is a former FIFA agent who has now created a program called Soccer Family Agent that empowers parents to begin to help advocate for their players, educate themselves, advocate for their children, and not just parents, family members as well, on the road from being a youth player to a professional player. Miro, introduce yourself. Give us a little bit about your background. Tell us about your program, man, and let's get on with the show.
Yeah, well, it's great to be here, Neil. I'm a former FIFA agent, spent a lifetime in the sport of soccer, and lived in the United States for more than 15 years now, where I've just observed the soccer landscape, especially at the grassroots level, just explode. And not only at the grassroots level, but on the women's side, at the pro level, with the massive expansion of the United Soccer League and the probably 200 plus semi-pro and pro clubs at that level. On the women's side, the launch of the Super League. And what I've observed is Americans have this ingrained mindset that to get to the pros, you have to go to college, unaware of the fact that that is true for American football, basketball, baseball, hockey, but is the furthest thing from the truth when it comes to soccer, because soccer doesn't rely on a draft. It doesn't recruit from college. And I decided to establish the Soccer Family Agent course that educates American parents and players about how to navigate from being a youth player to getting pro opportunities, not only domestically in the US, where that soccer landscape has expanded vastly, but also the 50 times more opportunities that lay beyond the borders, and especially in Europe and all over the world.
So, Miro, I'm going to talk about some cultural attitudes that I, as an American, am familiar with, but these are broad generalizations. And before we get into the blocking and tackling, let's talk about those, because I'm gonna rephrase that. I don't necessarily think that Americans think that going to college is a pro pathway per se. That's a huge per se. I think Americans rightfully value education, right? And are grappling with this idea that becoming a professional soccer player is kind of like an all or nothing endeavor, kinda. Like, it's really difficult to be an NCAA athlete and a professional, and then get the training that you need to become a professional soccer player. And so we just got to come to grips with that. And I'm just throwing this out there to get your response. The second thing I think with American culture, and many cultures, but definitely American culture, we believe if we just put our head down and put in the work, good things will happen for our child. And that may be true. And you're going to give your opinion on that. But soccer is a very subjective game, which you explained in the previous episode. And the final thing is, we're so worried to be characterized as a helicopter parent, and we're so worried about the impact it will have if we do everything for our child, that now we sometimes go to the other extreme of thinking we're just going to let our 16-year-old figure it all out on their own. And there's got to be a healthy balance. We want them to have grit. We want them to have self-determination. We don't want to be telling the coaches what to do, but at the same time, we can give them some guidance. And I think that's where programs like yours and the education that you're providing can help. So, what is your reaction to those big three? Number one, college and college academics and becoming an actual professional soccer player. The attitude of if I just work really hard and I'm really good, someone will find me. And finally, the role that the parent can play for that sort of more adolescent, that teenage age, even early 20s age, as they try to matriculate to a professional.
All right, thought I lost you there for a second,
Oh
but
yeah,
yeah,
no, you good.
On the first one with the college front, I never discourage the players. I'll never say to a player or parent, don't go to college. You've just got to weigh up your opportunities. Like you mentioned, getting an education is very important. Obviously, it's just it's taking the temperature of the player in terms of, yeah, we'd love to be a professional one day. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Versus, that's all I want to do. I am on a pathway. I am in an academy or an ECNL or an elite program. Then I would not discourage them from going to college, but I would, concurrent to pursuing those professional opportunities, absolutely keep your college trajectory on course just in case. But when it comes down to it, I always advocate for a player to turn 17, 18 and have the choice of, okay, I do have a professional opportunity and I do have the opportunity to go to college. So that's the ideal scenario where you can weigh it up and you make a decision. So the more opportunities you've got, the easier I think it's going to be to make a decision.
So then what about the next one? If you just put your head down and work and you're really good, they'll find you.
I would say that's like getting a lottery ticket and really concentrating on the six numbers that you're choosing. And if you concentrate hard enough, you're going to win. So absolutely not. Soccer is so broad. There's millions and millions of players. It's one of the highest participation sports in the US alone. So you're talking about millions of players chasing a dream. And even at the elite level, it's tens of thousands of players that are at, a U15 academy or ECNL. How are those 15, 20,000 players all going to go pro? They're not. The percentage is so low. If you're waiting, for somebody to find your player, you're basically leaving it up to fate and luck. And most likely the odds are against you.
So to piggyback on that, someone in our Facebook group, the Anytime Soccer Training Facebook group, posted a comment that said, if your child is not playing in the best league, and he's even talking about, I gather, below 15, age 15, not playing in the best league and not clearly one of the best players at that time, there's no way they can go professional. What would be your gut reaction to that? Any caveats, or is that blanket true in your case?
I would never say never, no, because I coach soccer youth in my spare time, and I've even as a FIFA agent, I've seen players just transform themselves in a short amount of time. Every single player is on a different trajectory when it comes to their development, and just because they're not at a certain level at age 13, that they can't be by the time they're 15. Recognizing that, I think, is very important. If they're not at an elite level, playing at an ECNL or some sort of elite academy by the time they're 16 or 17, I think that's where the odds are really long. But again, prior to a U13, 14, the player is still developing. It depends on how many years they played.
Yeah, so FIFA license on Google, I have, as a parent watching kids, I have two or three stories that just pop out to me where, especially like during the COVID time, there's one fellow in particular, completely and utterly transformed himself in 2 years to be completely unrecognizable.
Yeah.
He went from zero to hero because during the COVID period, he just trained because that's all he could do.
Yeah.
And I had never seen any human transform themselves in real life at that level. So I think never, never say never if you have the right mindset. And so then the final thing is this balance between over helicoptering, over parenting, and being supportive. What have you seen work?
Yeah, it's a great question because my course doesn't advocate going to your kid's game and screaming like a lunatic. So my my course is about funneling that energy into productivity off the field. I always use the analogy: if your kid's a U16 boy or girl and went out and scored 6 goals in a game and was a hero on the day, and when you go home at night and nobody has seen that footage or known of that feat beyond that community, then it really, if they want to be taking it to the next level, then it's all lost. But that night after your kid scores those goals, if you're getting on your computer, updating their highlight reel, including those 5 goals, and then taking the extra step of, okay, I've already made some email inquiries to these 5, 6 people that I'm trying to get to the next level. I email an updated link and said, hey, you're not going to believe my kid just did this today. That's how you funnel parental energy in terms of productivity and positivity. You go out there, you make the connections, you update your reel, you get your kid on as many radars as possible, be they agents, scouts, coaches, sporting directors, whatever, and then you keep following up, you keep managing your kid's career. Something great happens, you update their reel, you update those contacts, and then you reach out and you make more contacts. It's very basic, but it all requires a lot of energy and time and effort.
Okay, so let's say I have a 12-year-old right now and I see some talent and he's on, say, some ECNL or even an MLS Pro Academy. What are some of the things I should be thinking about? And are there anything I should be doing? And I'm going to make this a twofold question: domestically and internationally.
Again, it's the outreach. It's knowing the landscape. 12 years old, what level are they playing? Okay, we've ticked that box. How are we going to leverage where my kid's playing? Okay, are they at ECNL? Are they in an academy? If not, there's your answer. That's the next step. It's outlining what the next steps are, what the next upgrades are, and how to get to them and where they are. Is it geographically, domestically? Are we willing to move? Big steps like that. I've had, run workshops where I've had a couple of months ago, parents say he has a 12-year-old son. The father's originally from Portugal, and he's contemplating moving the entire family back to Portugal because he can get him into an academy there of a first or second division team. And that's how committed and devoted they are, because their kid is playing at an elite level. So it's knowing the landscape domestically and internationally, and then again, knowing how to navigate it, how to leverage where your player's at to lift that player and get them an opportunity. And that's literal physical outreach. Okay, this is where I want to go. This is the next level of clubs. These are all the clubs, and I'm going to contact every single one of them.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, and we're going to go to the next segment where we learn more about your background. But I was just speaking to a friend who got his son an opportunity to go on a trial with one of these Caribbean countries' national team.
Yeah.
And I was like, how'd you do that? He was like, man, now there's a small country, so don't think you can send it to the UK and this happens. This is a small country. But he was like, man, we've been sending them emails for 3 years and we always update clips. And finally, someone responded saying, hey, we're going to be in the States and they do this tournament, blah, blah, blah. And that's how it happened. So, channel that outreach in a positive direction, be very realistic about what your child can do. But, I think there's a lot of negative connotations around parents out doing this kind of outreach. But the reality is no one's going to do it other than you. Your child ain't even going to do it. So I like that advice. So look, let's just dig into your background. Is it true that you were the youngest accredited FIFA agent ever in the world?
At the time of my accreditation, yeah, I was I think 26 years old, and it was Back then, it was a very complicated process where you not only had to sit an exam and know your domestic regulations as it related to soccer. So I needed to know Australian regulations. I needed to know the Confederation, which was Oceania. And I also needed to know FIFA regulations, which is global. And then I studied for 3 to 4 months. I was operating as an unlicensed agent before that, which is how I got my player from Australia to Germany. But I worked with another registered agent over there who, was the official agent on the transfer, but I did most of the legwork. But yes, at the time, I went out and got my accreditation, and I was only 26, 27 at the time. And it was still, a burgeoning industry, the sports agent industry. And it was challenging for me because a lot of people didn't take me seriously because I was as young as the players I was representing.
I can imagine that. But so how much of it is legal technical knowledge versus um marketing
That's a
and
great question.
relationships?
That's a phenomenal question. So in my soccer family agent course, I have 8 modules, and one of them is the World Soccer Resource Center, where the whole module is learning about 100 countries all over the world. Out of those 8 modules, only one module covers actual regulation and legalities. So that puts it into perspective. Yes, you've got to be aware of the regulations and technicalities to be able to navigate. But a lot of times you really, like, for example, you'll find out what those things are. Like when I first started out as an agent, I would reach out and contact the club in the UK, and the first question I got before I look at this player's video, is he eligible to play here? So those kind of like guardrails, you find out very early, and that's what I teach in the course in terms of, yeah, I go through all the legalities, but I really simplify them into one module where you basically know which countries have the most strictest work permit requirements, what ages and so forth can you play a transfer, what kind of transfer fees, compensation fees can potentially be at play. So it's all condensed because at the end of the day, um, it's not about being a fully qualified lawyer. Like, in the NBA, you have to have a law degree to be an agent. Which again, I don't know why, because with collective bargaining agreements, you're not kind of starting writing up contracts from scratch. They're all basically, pre-made. So yeah, the legality side is very simplified, and it's not your understanding of that is not what's going to generate opportunities. Like you said, it's going to be the marketing and outreach. And in my course, I basically list one of your requirements as an agent, family agent, is to be a telemarketer. You're cold calling people and you're saying, I got the next sensation in soccer. So that's
Oh,
one aspect of the role.
so let's go back to this then. So you started in Australia. We do this podcast where we go over and we compare youth soccer in one country to youth soccer in the US. We're not going to dig into the details, but let me read my notes here. So, how does the pathway in Australia work? And what options does a youth player have for becoming a professional? So, let me just tee this up by saying in the US, is this well documented? Most kids start in rec, but we have this huge pay to play club system. And then that play to play club system has some sort of elite tiers.
Mm-hmm.
And those elite tiers do have ties. If not, they either have a professional club or they have ties. The controversy obviously is the pay to play model within it, but there's a lot of controversy around it and a lot of nuance. And then on top of that, we have their MLS Pro academies. Now, we have other fully funded academies as well that are USL, one level below. So those are the two funded academy programs. And they do have scouts, but our country is so big that it's not the scouting apparatus that you're going to have, say, in a grassroots situation in England. Now that I said all that, how does it work in Australia? And then how does that compare to what you're familiar with in Croatia?
It's pretty similar everywhere. You have the foundational structure is first the top tier teams. But like the A League in Australia is the top men's league there. all these A-League teams have academies. In the US, it's Major League Soccer. All Major League Soccer teams have academies. In Croatia or Portugal, wherever, first division teams, second division teams, they have their academies. All these teams, it's universal that yes, while all these professional teams, be it Australia or America or Europe, they all have a pay-to-play system. They have a structure in place where they do develop young players. It doesn't mean that 99% of their starting 11 at the top level came from their academy. It's probably one or two at best because, while they develop their own players. For example, in 2022, I coached with the New York Red Bulls, and I was a youth coach, and I was at the training academy, the first team training academy, one day, and I was speaking to the U19 coach, and he said, "Today's it's actually a really sad day. It's the last day of the season, and we're saying goodbye to most of our players. Apart out of 23 in the squad, we're saying goodbye to 20 players." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, the next step is U23, and basically there's only 3 spots open. So what we do is when we get to U19s, we cut 20 players and only 3 make the jump." So, and he said some of these players have been in the academy for like 5, 6, 7 years since they were 12, 13-year-olds. So that just gives you an idea about how little your chances are, even when you're with a top tier major league academy all the way through your youth. And then that doesn't guarantee the, imagine it's like your U19s 23, do they go then to the U23s? And then what happens after that? Do they all, go to the first team and say, "You guys are all gone"? Like, it doesn't work that way. It's only one or two at best. And from those U23s, maybe one or two get into the senior squad. But even then, they're going to start on the bench and they may not even get a starting spot ever. So that puts it into perspective. And I use that as an example, Neil, because I say to these parents and players, what if you are one of those 20 players that got cut from the U19 MLS Academy? Do you then scramble, pick up a phone, and just desperately start calling people saying, "Oh my God, what are the options? Well, I don't even know what the landscape is. Who can I call? What is the next step?" Versus, no problem. I've been marketing my player for 3 years. We have all these opportunities. We have USL teams that have said to me, "If you ever want to leave, there's a spot for you here." We have players, teams in Europe that know about him because, I've been lobbing videos in. So it's that outreach that you do years in advance that basically ensure your odds of success of going pro.
Yeah, one thing I've always said is contact people before you need them.
Yeah,
That's my marketing
absolutely.
tip. Hey, I'm here. We're happy, but I just want you to be aware of this player. Oh, okay. As opposed to we just got released and I'm looking for a new landing spot.
Right.
So, or I'm here. Hey, we're going to be in Europe for vacation. I would love for my son to come and visit and tour the campus. That kind of thing. That would be my sales
Absolutely.
pitch. But let's go back very specifically before we end this segment. So in the US, in general, the country is massive. It's a pay-to-play system to get into these higher levels before you get accepted into a MLS Pro Academy or a fully funded academy. But in Australia, is it pretty much the same in terms of quote unquote pay-to-play, or is their grassroots really, really can be at a high level like in England?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same deal. It's a pay to play. And then even when you get to that elite level, you're still paying for your kid to play. You're just paying more money and you're in a bigger and more elite academy. So it's pretty much the same system all over. It involves not only a kid proving themselves, but it's a pay to play method. And even that's no guarantee. You're just making it to the next level where, the competition is just as fierce.
But then how does that compare to Croatia from what you understand?
Well, it's the same thing. You're going to be, if you're part of an academy of a first division team, you're well placed to make that jump. But it doesn't mean that you are going to end up in the senior squad of that team. At some point, you will get cut. It's inevitable for any player in any country.
Yes, but I'm saying let's just talk about the structure of Croatian soccer. I'm
Right.
saying one of the biggest criticisms, and I don't know how familiar you are with the youth soccer because you've been away for a while. One of the biggest criticisms in America is, oh, in America, my 10-year-old, it's going to cost me $3,000 a year, or $4,000 per year for them to play. And if I was in pick Croatia, it would be very cheap. I always counter that to say, yeah, but the challenge is if you were definitely in England, I can't speak for Croatia, but I lived in England for a long time, you would have a volunteer coach and you would train one day a week. But because it's part of their religion, it's just, you can't even compare it. It's just,
Right.
you just can't compare like that little bit of structure of soccer. They just, I always use the example. I lived there over a decade. I never saw a child who was into sports who wasn't into football. Like, it's just so part of the religion.
Yeah.
So it's not an easy comparison. But in Croatia, I got a 10-year-old. They're not in the academy. I want them to get some quality coaching. Is it in England? It doesn't even exist. You're going to play grassroots. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But they have different tiers of grassroots, but you're going to be with a volunteer coach. But that volunteer coach may even be licensed because they want to get to an academy, but you're going to be with a volunteer for the most part.
Yeah.
In Croatia, what happens?
It's the same
I'm
challenge,
10,
Neil. Yeah, but it's the same challenge. No matter where you are, the fact of the matter is you haven't turned pro yet. And it doesn't matter whether you're grassroots, whether you're an academy, until that happens, your chances of that happening are very slim to none. And that's where,
Okay.
and in Croatia especially, you have agents that are very aggressive that go in and they pay the family money and say, okay, I'm going to like assist you and give you an income because you are playing perhaps with the Croatian U18 team and you have that exposure. But again, it's the agent that's going to go out and make those connections and transfer that player to the pro ranks.
All right. So we're going to go to the final part, and this is specifically about, and I'm just checking my notes, the pro pathway. So some of these you may have already answered, but I just want to make sure that we're crystal clear. So college, there is an MLS pro draft out of college. And I understand you got a 17-year-old, you want them to have both options. But can't you say, I'm going to go to college for a year and then see if I can get into the draft? Let me start over. I got released from an MLS Pro Academy. And I'm going to go to college for a year and then see if I can get into the draft. Is that a realistic thing, or you just don't get the contact hours?
No, there's 15 to 20,000 collegiate men and the same number for collegiate women. There's probably 80 players that go through this draft. Less than 30% of those players will ever see a minute in Major League Soccer. And a lot of it's an age thing, there's players that are probably 16, 17 that are ahead of the curve in terms of their development versus a 21-year-old collegiate player. Because don't forget, Neil, in college, there's massive restrictions on how much training you can do. So, and gameplay and everything else. So that's why, the National Women's Soccer League actually abolished their draft. They don't even use it anymore. And I think that's the future of the MLS draft.
Yeah, I only know one situation, because I'm not an expert in this, one situation where a kid from my older son's club, it was a grassroots club, he went to academy, got released, went to college for 1 year, but then stayed in touch with that academy, went back.
Yeah.
And then he progressed, but it wasn't like through the draft.
But again, Neil, imagine you're one of those 15,000 players relying on hope versus there's 15,000 teams out there all over the world that you can actually be reaching out to without a draft.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So another question that parents always ask, everybody asks, how do I get my kids scouted? So I'm in America. Let's use America. How do I get my kids scouted? What are you going to tell them?
Great question. You scout to them. You are the bridge. That's the whole point of Soccer Family Agent. You are reaching out to scouts all over the place, whether it's domestically, internationally, even if it's an academy scout, U18, U19 in Europe. You know how you get them scouted? You get your ducks in a row, you put together a phenomenal highlight reel, which I teach you to do as part of the course, and then you go out and you connect with that scout. You find them and you connect and you show them the reel and you say, we can be in Europe, we're going to be on holiday anyway, no risk to you. Have my player come in for a few days and train.
Yeah, so I will say this, FIFA license from Google, from my older son's experience, I have had the opportunity to meet a couple of scouts here and there. And I was pleasantly surprised. And I was actually telling someone, they kind of want talent. They want to keep their ear on the ground. Now, they're not listening to every parent who thinks they have the next Messi, but they're not like cold. That was my experience, is because I was shocked. Like sometimes they'll even text me and ask me about my older son's club games. Like, are they playing? Because they don't want to miss anything either. So it's kind of like they have a boundary, but they also are in sales too, in the sense that they want to make sure that they get the best talent, because no one wants to pop up in their rival club has this 16-year-old and everybody's looking at them like, how did you miss this? What
You're
do you
going to
take
put
on
me
that?
out of business. You really are. I could take that last 40 seconds of verbiage that you just used and literally like that's what I say in my course. Scouts want to find talent. Scouts are receptive to hearing from intermediaries, whether that intermediary is a legitimate agent or whether it's a soccer family agent, who are qualified, by the way. You're absolutely right. They want to find the next player. They don't care. They'll undress the whole, this player is the best, this player is Messi. They'll cut to the chase. They'll view the video. That's their job. Their job is to scout. So you're absolutely right. You're going to get the occasional scout that'll say, go away, I don't want you. But on the whole, most of these scouts are going to give you the time of day. They might get 20 seconds, a minute into your video and go, nope. But they are very receptive to hearing from intermediaries who are proposing to pitch another great talent to their team.
Okay, so it's not just me, because I was shocked. I was like, okay, this is not all right. Cool. So now, FIFA agent, I always say you got a few industries. No offense here. Law, used car salesman, FIFA agent. Y'all somewhere in there. I hate to say it. So, what are the biggest red flags that parents should look for when someone approaches them about their child and offering their services?
Dollar signs. That's it. Okay. The FIFA agents should not charge to represent a player. It's especially if they're coming to you, saying, well, I can deliver you to the promised land. It's going to cost you X amount. It doesn't work that way. And there's so many of these people now on social media that are you're pitching these tours and these, pathways to the pros if you pay X amount. And most of them, if not all of them, are just money-making schemes.
Now, we're going to tread a fine line here. I completely understand there's one group of people who sell experiences, and I actually have no problem with that.
Right.
It's a soccer, as long as they're transparent. It's a soccer experience. You're going to come, you're going to get some games, you're going to do some tours. It's great. And I think for the most part, people understand what they're getting. Then on the other end of the spectrum, I think, and you tell me, there are organizations who help get you seen.
Yeah.
But and like they bring you there, you do their camps, you stay with them, you might even stay with them for a season. And if you're good, they can kind of like work their network. But what is your take on that industry? Because that industry is growing.
Yeah.
Bringing American players over, we're going to board you, we're going to train you, we're going to put you in a European environment, and we're going to try to get you some film, and we're going to try to get you seen by scouts. What is your take on that order? I mean, not sorry. What is your take on that industry?
But that's again, if you're the soccer family agent of the player, your child, in your family, that's where you're going to be empowered to make that call and do the due diligence, And again, if it's really, it's so merit based every situation. Okay, your capabilities versus the opportunity. If you have the capabilities to spend X amount of money, know the risks and know that there is a very low percentage that this may translate into a real pro opportunity with that team or organization that's facilitating it, and yet you want to proceed, then go for it. That's going to be your call. But at the end of the day, if your players in a strong position where you can market them legitimately and not rely and not even perhaps have the capabilities to send them to one of these things, then that's going to be your judgment call based on your capabilities and the due diligence that you do.
So it really boils down to due diligence. I tell people sometimes, and again, FIFA license on Google, you know, move moving to California is not going to get you into Hollywood, not going to make you a star, but a lot of stars are in Hollywood. So
Yeah.
I can kind of see if you have the resources and you're bright-eyed about the situation, you got a good assessment and feel for your kid. Going to Europe, if you look at it as an opportunity, it's pricey, maybe, but I'm still trying to figure this one out because there is something to if you're good, you don't have to pay, but at the same time, you may have to get to Europe one way or the other and then go from there. Because I've seen success stories from that.
Yeah,
I've also
absolutely.
seen success stories from people who'd use the European college route
Yeah.
to be there and then work the system. What were you gonna say on that?
No, but every situation's different. Like I'm advising a parent at the moment, and um, her son just finished playing D1 in California, and I've had this conversation for a while. He's just about to secure a UK passport. He's 21 years old. He has every chance in the world of securing something, maybe, League Five in England and make he's a young man. He can go there and play even semi-pro, 6, 7 tiers down. And if he's got talent, aim higher. But the most difficult thing is getting into England, getting into Europe. So there's no set pathway. There's no age limits. There's no restrictions in terms of where you are in your soccer journey. It all comes down to the opportunities that you're cultivating. That's absolutely everything. So if she's going to do the outreach, connect with teams over there, get him a tryout. He's got a British passport in the works. He has every chance for success.
So let's go to this. You mentioned this in the previous podcast. I did not know this. So that Messi's dad, Mbappe's mother, Harry Kane's brother, all acted as an agent early on in their career. Number one, is that true? And then number two is how common is that? And what role do you think they played in those early days?
So they are still actively their agents. So
Oh, really?
Harry Kane's brother is his main agent, and he has now his own agency and no doubt representing other players. Mbappe's mother, she negotiated the deal to Real Madrid. She's his official agent and continues to be. You want to do business with Mbappe, you talk to his mother. She's his agent. Lionel Messi, he's working with other agents as well, but Jorge, he's still involved with his management. So whether you are going to continue in that capacity when your child goes to the pros and becomes a big shot, or whether you just get them there and say, I'm out, there's other people that are going to step in and be his reps. I've done my job. But yeah, absolutely. And it's much more common in Europe and South America, where parents are not going to sit back. They're not going to assume kids going to go to college or whatever, because there is no collegiate route. So it is much more of a cultural thing in South America and Europe, where parents and siblings take that initiative.
So let's go back in time and make it. We're going to go back to your experience with your initial player, and then talk about sort of in general how it works, and then we're wrapping this up. When a player goes on trial, what describe what that is like, how long it is, what they actually do, and what success looks like. They get a contract or something, and what not being successful looks like. Do they get a phone call, or they call you, or how does that work?
Great question. And I cover this extensively in my course. So when you start representing your player, your success in terms of you as an agent is securing that tryout. With that, no one's going to sign your player off a video unless they're playing for, the Olympic team or something that they're proven. So step one is getting a trial. Do they pay for it? Do you pay for it? That depends on the situation. A lot of times with my players, I would have a team in Europe say, Miro, like the video, of course, we'll bring him in. We're not paying for his airfare to come over here. We'll give him accommodation either with a team member or put him in a hotel. So 9 times out of 10, the onus is going to be on you to fly them over. What it looks like, every trial is different. Generally, it'll be for a week. Generally, it will be with a second team. So a lot of these pro teams have they're fully pro teams playing like in a U23 environment. So they'll embed them with a secondary team. Maybe some unofficial games will be played. I've seen trials end after one session. They say, no thanks, whether it's technical or their attitude or whatever. I've seen trials go into a second week. And I've seen, it'll basically be the intermediary, the agent that'll get the call with whoever facilitated it, whether it's a scout or a sporting director saying, Miro, assessed your player over the week. Yes, good player, but not anything better than what we have. And that's what's important to know as an agent. They're not looking for something to add. They're looking for better than what they have. That should be your benchmark. You've got to go there and show that you are better than players that they have there. You don't need to be the best, but you need to be better than a handful of players that are already on their roster.
And as you get older, would you say better than the players at that specific position?
Absolutely, yeah. That's what you're competing against.
And have you seen major disconnects where, let's say the player is reasonable, right? And they think they killed it, and then they immediately no, the club is like, no, thank you.
I've had great question. I sent a young striker from Australia to Europe, and he scored 5 goals in a unofficial game and killed it. And the coach said, no, thanks. So you never know what's going on in the background. Maybe that coach already has his eyes on somebody else. I've had the whole spectrum of results. I've had players go there. One of the biggest eye-opening things that I notice with players is they're going in all cocky, going, yeah, I'm going to kill it. I'm going to go there. And after training one, they are just like, oh my God, that is so beyond my capabilities. I need to go back and with my tail between my legs and reset and be a better player. And, I've seen that happen a lot with players that go there and are just overwhelmed.
Guys, so Miro, how do people get access to the Soccer Family Agent? And we're going to show this in the show notes.
soccerfamilyagent.com or soccerfa.com abbreviated. And if they're subscribers or followers of your show, I've got a 40% discount code. They can put AST Anytime Soccer Training, AST40, so AST40, and I'll offer 40% discount to your viewers.
Okay, guys, so we're going to put the discount code in the show notes. We're also going to have a sign up on the website, on the Facebook group, the Anytime Soccer Training Facebook group, and the Youth Soccer Coaches Facebook group for people who want to take advantage of it. And we're going to add it into our newsletter. Miro, you've been gracious with your time. This has been a wonderful conversation. It's getting into some dark areas of youth soccer because who sits around thinking about helping their child navigate professional soccer pathways? I know I don't. So, but at the same time, this is extremely important if you have a child playing at a high level, whether it be college or potential professional career. And so this is going to be very helpful for those parents and family members who want to support their child in a way that's positive and not negative. Miro, thank you so much again. My name is Neil Crawford. I'm the founder of Anytime Soccer Training, also the host of the Inside Scoop. And let's get better together.
Neil, you're awesome. Had a great time today. You asked some amazing questions. Well done.
Thank you.